Hello, my name's Alastair Boase. I am the owner of MacLeod Ale Brewing Company, the second biggest brewery in Van Nuys. I'm here with my friend Ron Sarchian, who we met together years ago.
Yeah, 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, we had a mutual friend, Eric Lutz, and Ron was a stunt double for him. And anyway, we became friends and worked together on landscape projects. But fast forward 16 years, and Ron approached me about breaking Guinness World Records.
As you can see behind us, we have some tables that are built. I'm going to be smashing cans, drink cans, full of beer, MacLeod Ale beer, on Sunday, September 15th, here at MacLeod Ale, out in the front parking lot at 3 o'clock, and it should be an interesting event.
All right, the thing I'm curious about, Ron, is the history of Guinness. There's obviously an incredible phenomenon going on with that. And when I was a kid, yes, we had a Guinness Book of World Records, and we were quite fascinated.
Right.
So tell me more about that, because it's, it's something that isn't that tangible.
Right. Well, my understanding of how this whole thing has evolved was back in the early 50s. There was a guy named Sir Hugh Beaver, who was actually the general manager of Guinness Distillery,
right.
Guinness Brewery, and he was a hunter and was apparently out hunting game birds. I'm not sure what the proper word is, but he used to hunt birds, and he and some of the other hunters got into a discussion about what the fastest game bird was in Europe at the time.
Oh yes, I can just imagine it. Bloody hell, I'm a better shooter than you.
Oh yeah, especially after a couple of beers.
Yeah.
And so after having this happen a few times with different guys he was hunting with, he decided to hire Ross and Norris McWhirter to do the research and actually find out the answers to these questions. And those are actually the two guys that started the book.
Right.
So I think it was probably in the early 50s, 51, when they started to do this for Sir Hugh Beaver. And in 54, they actually wrote the first Guinness book, and I believe it came out in 55. So, and it was a very, very short, condensed book.
Yeah.
But it was the first Guinness book, and that's kind of how the whole thing started. So Guinness World Records, the word Guinness actually comes from Guinness beer.
Right, so were they trying to promote the brand?
I think Sir Hugh Beaver was trying to figure out the best way to market Guinness beer.
Yeah.
And ended up naming the book that. And there's always this speculation about whether Guinness World Records has anything to do with Guinness beer, and when it all started out, it actually did.
So how many records have you broken?
So officially right now, I have 10 Guinness World Records.
Yeah.
Unofficially, I have 11, because I did the Pinata record here back in June. So, and then this will be number 12, 13, 14. This will actually be, by the end of the year, hopefully, unofficially, 15. It usually takes about 3 to 4 months for Guinness to actually review the evidence and then basically, give you the okay that it's your world record.
Yeah, what is this Pinata record you talk of?
Well, the first world record that I broke here on June 16th, which was also my birthday, was the fastest time to break 5 pinatas,
right?
Which was currently, before me, held by Mr. Derek Carr, who is the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders.
Right.
So I submitted the evidence package to Guinness about 2 months ago, and am waiting on validation and verification, and hopefully it'll come back positive, and I'll have beaten Derek Carr's world record for breaking pinatas, which would be awesome.
That was a great day. We had kids out there. They got a
day.
ton of candy.
25 pounds of candy, 5 pounds in each pinata.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of candy, yeah.
All right, so now you mentioned when you first, as a child, you got interested in Guinness World Records.
Right.
So can you tell the folks about that? Because
Right.
that's kind of interesting to me.
I think I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I think most of the kids that I knew had a copy of the Guinness book, but it was a paperback, and it was all torn up, and it was all ruffled, and I used to read that book every night. And I can remember as a kid, this is one of the few memories I have as a kid, is I'm going to be in that book someday.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it only took me 40 years to get there. And here we are now, breaking a world record on my 55th birthday. Mm-hmm. So it's over 15 years now that I've been doing this. But yeah, it all started out as a kid, as many things do. Once we get that idea in our head as a kid, it sticks with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a few years to actually manifest, but it did. And
yeah.
so here we are.
As a child, you had 3 things you wanted to achieve in your life. Three goals that were kind of strong desires of yours.
Well, following up on the idea, the thought of having a Guinness book as a kid, I knew that I always wanted to be in the book, right? I always thought it would be so cool to be in the Guinness book. When you're a kid, of course, Mm-hmm. It took me a long time to figure that one out, mm-hmm. almost 40 years. The first time I got in, the first world record I broke was when I was on my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to be a pro football player. I wanted to play in the NFL. Played ball in high school, college, semi-pro. And then I realized, wow, this is really a tough way to make a living. And I just, as far as being an athlete, I just was not at that level. Mm-hmm. You have to be a complete stud to make it in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's a tough way to make a living. And then I also wanted to be a stuntman, which one of the reasons why I moved here to Southern California was to become a stuntman.
Yeah.
I worked for the Boeing company in Seattle for about 8 years, mm-hmm. doing all kinds of different things, engineering, design, all that sort of thing. And then I realized that I really had the bug for being a stuntman, and specifically I used to get set on fire and get blown up a lot. So when I realized that that was really something I had a passion for, I thought, you know what, I really need to move to LA to mm-hmm. really make it. There wasn't enough stunt work in Seattle. I mean, I worked on a bunch of different shows like Northern Exposure and worked on a bunch of different movies, but I just wasn't getting enough work to do it full time.
Yeah.
So I realized that I probably would have to come down here to California to do that. And which is when I met Eric and ended up doing stunt work for 3-4 years, pretty solid.
Yeah.
And then started getting into other things like fitness and becoming a personal trainer, and then of course that led into breaking world records.
Yeah.
And here we are, 15 years later, still doing it.
Give me an example of one of your world records that you've broken that you're most proud of.
Probably the one I'm most proud of. And most people think that that's the most difficult, mm-hmm. but it's not. The most difficult record I ever broke was when I punched a heavy bag for 50 hours straight.
Yeah.
That was a very difficult one because I'd never really been up that long without sleeping before.
Yeah.
So it proved to be extremely difficult mentally more than physically. But I think when I was on the Today Show and I karate chopped 42 watermelons in half with my bare hands, that to me was probably mm-hmm. the one I'm the proudest of, because I dedicated it to my mom. Mm-hmm. And when you dedicate a world record to your mom in front of 5 or 6 million TV viewers, you better break it. So I was fortunate enough to break it by 2, and I was happy to walk away from that with feeling good about it. So
yeah, right on. All right, so now when you're out in a pub having a drink or wherever in your everyday life, and someone comes up and said, what, you kicked a bag for 50 hours? I could do that. How does that make you feel?
You mean like people do here when I break a record and they say, oh, piñatas? I can do that.
Yeah.
I think, my attitude toward records, world records, whatever, is always that they're meant to be broken. Mm-hmm. So anything I do, I mean, I look at like the records that I've broke, somebody else held before I did.
Yeah.
So every record is meant to be broken. I've even told people, when people come up to me and they say, I can break that, I go, you know what? I'll even help you. Yeah. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do, You got to train for it. You got to do the research and development. You got to do all the work behind the record. I'll help you. I'll be there for you if you have any questions that you need answered. And it's never happened. So far it's just all talk. But I tell people, you know, I'll be your consultant, and I have been a consultant on world records. There's a lot to know, you know. There's a lot of experience and knowledge that you gain over the years, 15 years doing this. And there's a lot of shortcuts and a lot of little things that can save you a lot of time and a lot of aggravation. So,
yeah, your relationship with you other world record breakers, the guys who you beat,
right?
They have a very good attitude about it. They're not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the beer industry. You know, you support each other, and
of course.
It's good healthy competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really all good natured. It is hard work and it is challenging, which is why I really love it. But you're also in charge of your own destiny, right? When I do stuff like this, I'm doing it. I'm my own boss. You know, you're your own boss. But it's hard. It's hard work. And it you know, sometimes that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, because I get excited about doing them.
Yeah.
And you have to find that in life to, you know, to keep moving forward and be excited about life. And for me, this is what I do that really gets me fired up. You know, like the record that we're going to be doing here on Sunday, September 15th, with the tables behind you. I'm hoping I can do it.
Yeah. I doubt you can.
Now you're getting me fired up. But I love the challenge of not knowing whether or not I'm going to be able to do it. You put all that work. This is a 1-minute record. We've probably put 30 or 40 hours, more than that, into this for 1 minute. And for me, that's the enjoyable part is, man, that's intense when you think about it, you know? And we only got one shot at it because we only have so many cans of beer, right? So it'll be interesting, it'll be challenging, it'll be fun. It's a little bit of everything. And the hard work is worth it, especially if you break it.
Well, thank you for your time.
Of course.
Just a quick thing just before we end off. You're writing a book, I understand.
I am.
So tell me about that a little bit.
It's basically a book about my Guinness, it's not necessarily Guinness, but my world record breaking life, career, as you'll have it. I've been doing this for 15 years. It's turned into something that I never thought I would be doing for this long. I thought it's kind of like running a marathon. You know, you run a marathon and you're good. Okay, I'm good. I ran a marathon. And I've been doing it, and every year I took a few breaks from injuries. I've had some surgeries and stuff like that, and I've taken some breaks. But I'm into it even more now at my age. And I love it, and I'm going to continue to do it until I physically can't do it anymore, you know. So the book is really all about that. It explains all of my records. It explains what was going on, what kind of injuries I've been dealing with, who I've dedicated my records to, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, give me the title of the book, because it's very good. It really encapsulates.
It's a Guinness World Record holder's journey, passion, or obsession.
Yeah.
Because some people think I'm obsessed with this, and I look at it as a passion.
Yeah.
So it really depends on who you are and what you think about. Some people think that I'm, you know, out of my mind.
Yeah.
And some people give me a lot of credit for doing a lot of work, you know, like you see all the work that goes on behind these things, and
sure do.
It's a lot of work, you know, and it's there is a certain amount of craziness that goes into it, but also there's a lot of love, a lot of passion that goes into it to make it successful.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for coming and
My
sharing your hobby with us and bringing your world record attempts to our place.
Yeah, happy to do so.
We're delighted to have you here at the brewery, and let's go over real quick just so everyone understands that they can come and experience these 4 records being broken.
So we've got 4 more world record attempts coming up here at MacLeod Ale Brewery this weekend, which is September 15th at 3 p.m. here out in the front parking lot. The most drink cans crushed by hand in 1 minute, which obviously we're breaking beer cans that are full. On the 29th of September, which will be 2 weeks from Sunday, once again at 3 p.m. I'll be doing the most beer or the most drink cans crushed by elbow in 1 minute, and then in November we're going to be doing the most pumpkins smashed with a sledgehammer in 1 minute, and then the same day, about an hour later, we're going to be doing the most squash smashed with a sledgehammer in 1 minute. So we've got 4 more Guinness World Records attempts coming up here at MacLeod Ale Brewery, and we welcome you to come out and check it out, have a good time. And once again, I want to thank Alastair for inviting me and being open-minded enough to do something like this, because it really is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you bet. Our pleasure. Let's drink to that.
Cheers.
All right.